The name Targaryen conjures images of fire, power, and dragons soaring over Westeros. For nearly 3 centuries they were more than kings, they were a force of nature, set apart by their silver hair, violet eyes, and the dragons they commanded. The Iron Throne, forged from the swords of their enemies, was a constant reminder of their violent rise. Their words, fire and blood, were both a promise and a threat, yet the same fire that gave them power would ultimately consume them from within. The Targaryen saga is a cautionary tale. Absolute power, especially when tied to dragons, is a dangerous thing. Their greatest strength, their family bonds, became their greatest weakness, as pride and rivalry cracked the foundation of their rule. The fire in their veins gave them the world, but it also left them with nothing but ashes and bitter memory. Before they ruled Westeros, the Targaryens were just one of many Dragonlord families in Valyria. Their fate changed when Danyas, daughter of Lord Enar, dreamed of Valyria's destruction. While others dismissed her vision, Enar believed, and fled with his family and dragons to Dragonstone, a bleak island at the world's edge. When the doom came, the Targaryens survived as Valyria burned. For a century, they watched the world unravel from their isolated fortress, preserving their bloodline through Valyrian customs. They became the last Dragonlords, their legacy nearly forgotten. But the prophecy that saved them also gave them a sense of destiny. On Dragonstone, the dream of Danyas simmered, inspiring Aegon to look west. Not as a refugee, but as a conqueror. The Targaryens were not just survivors. They believed themselves chosen. Aegon Targaryen was not driven by simple ambition. His vision stretched far beyond personal glory, or the lust for power that consumed so many before him. Born on the storm-lashed island of Dragonstone, Aegon grew up watching the chaos and endless wars that plagued Westeros. He saw a fractured land, torn apart by petty kings and ancient rivalries, desperately in need of unity and strong leadership. With his formidable sister wives, Visenya and Rhaenys, and their mighty dragons, Aegon launched a conquest that would forever alter the fate of the continent. Together, they swept across Westeros, their dragons inspiring awe and terror in equal measure. Kings who bent the knee to Aegon were spared and welcomed into his new order. But those who resisted faced the full fury of dragonfire. Fire and blood became the price of defiance. The conquest was swift and decisive, but even as the dust settled, the first cracks began to show within the new dynasty. Aegon, Rasmainen, Ni, and Stengri dan yin forward, Verbrandibad and Vesti, Brave Visenya were united in their purpose, but divided in temperament and approach. Rustin and Nice was known for her warmth and diplomacy, while Visenya was fierce and uncompromising, often clashing with Aegon's more measured restraint. After Rhaenys' tragic death in Dorne, Visenya's ruthlessness only grew, and her relationship with Aegon became strained. The loss of Rhaenys left a void that neither could fill, and their differences deepened. The next generation faced even greater challenges. Aenys, Aegon's heir, was seen as weak and indecisive, unable to command the respect his father had earned. His reign was plagued by rebellion and unrest. As old wounds reopened, into this chaos stepped Maegor, Visenya's son, who seized the throne by force and ruled with an iron fist. Known as Maegor the Cruel, his reign was marked by brutality and fear. Maegor's tyranny shattered the fragile unity of the Targaryen family, setting a dangerous precedent that the Iron Throne could be claimed by strength alone, not just by right of birth. The seeds of future conflict were sown. Targaryen blood would be spilled by Targaryen hands, as ambition and rivalry took root within the family itself. The Iron Throne, once a symbol of hope and unity for Westeros, became a coveted prize, one that only the strongest dragon could claim. In the end, the Targaryens' greatest threat was not from outside enemies, but from within their own bloodline. The dream of unity began to unravel, and the first cracks in the dynasty had appeared. After Maegor's bloody reign, Jaehaerys I brought peace and prosperity. With his sister wife Alysanne, he ruled wisely for over 50 years, earning the love of the realm. But personal tragedy struck. They outlived most of their children, leading to a crisis of succession. The deaths of their sons forced Jaehaerys to choose between his grandson Viserys and his granddaughter Rhaenys. Tradition favored Rhaenys, but the lords feared a queen. The Great Council at Harrenhal chose Viserys, setting a precedent. Male heirs would be favored over females. Jaehaerys hoped this would secure peace, but it only delayed conflict. By letting the lords decide, he weakened the crown's authority. The precedent would haunt his grandson Viserys, whose only heir was a daughter. The seeds of civil war were sown in the name of peace. King Viserys I's reign was marked by a rare peace, but beneath the surface it was a peace as fragile as glass. The realm prospered, yet old rivalries and ambitions simmered quietly, waiting for a spark. Seeking to secure his legacy, Viserys named his beloved daughter Rhaenyra as his heir, gathering the great lords of Westeros to swear solemn oaths to uphold her claim to the Iron Throne, a moment that seemed to promise stability. But everything changed when Viserys remarried Alicent Hightower, who soon gave him sons. The court fractured, splitting into two bitter factions: the Blacks, who supported Rhaenyra, and the Greens, who rallied behind Alicent's eldest son, Aegon. Rhaenyra was proud, intelligent, and fiercely determined to claim her birthright. Aegon, meanwhile, was a reluctant rival, pushed into the conflict by his ambitious mother Alicent, who believed her son was the rightful king. The rivalry between Rhaenyra and Alicent soon poisoned the royal court, turning once loving cousins into bitter enemies, and friends into foes. Every council meeting became a battlefield of whispers and suspicion. King Viserys desperately tried to keep the peace, urging unity and compromise, but his efforts were in vain. The seeds of division had already taken root, growing deeper with every passing year. When Viserys finally died, the Greens moved quickly and in secret, crowning Aegon as king before Rhaenyra could act, shattering any hope for a peaceful succession. Outraged and betrayed, Rhaenyra declared herself queen, refusing to let her father's promise be broken, and demanding the loyalty of those who had once sworn to her. The realm was forced to choose sides, tearing families and friendships apart. The once united Targaryen house was now shattered, its members set against each other. Oaths and ancient precedents collided violently. Brother was set against sister, cousin against cousin, as the struggle for the throne became a bitter civil war. The war that followed was not a war of conquest, but a desperate fight for survival, with every battle leaving scars that would never heal. The Targaryens' greatest strength, their dragons, became their greatest curse as fire and blood rained down upon the land, destroying all in their path. The lines were drawn, banners raised, and the dance of the dragons began, a war that would forever change the fate of House Targaryen. The once mighty house was now at war with itself, its legacy consumed by the flames of ambition and betrayal. The Dance of the Dragons was the most catastrophic event in Targaryen history, a civil war that tore the realm apart and changed the fate of Westeros forever. Dragons battled dragons in the skies, turning the family's greatest strength into its ultimate undoing. The skies, once symbols of Targaryen dominance, became battlefields of fire and death. The first blood was spilled when Aemond, driven by vengeance and pride, killed Rhaenyra's young son Lucerys, above the storm-lashed cliffs of Storm's End. This single act ignited a cycle of violence that could not be stopped. Vengeance spiraled out of control. Daemon Targaryen, Rhaenyra's husband, arranged the brutal murder of Aegon's son in retaliation, deepening the wounds between the rival factions. Battles raged across the land, dragons fell from the sky, and the once proud creatures became corpses littering the fields. The skies, once filled with majesty, became a graveyard of wings and fire. Rhaenyra briefly seized King's Landing, but her rule was marked by constant paranoia, betrayal, and unrest. The city simmered with tension, and her supporters grew fewer by the day. The people, terrified by the chaos and destruction, stormed the dragon pit in a desperate act. In a frenzy of fear and anger, they slaughtered the last of the dragons, ending an era. Rhaenyra was betrayed by those she trusted, captured, and ultimately fed to her brother's dragon. A brutal end to her tragic quest for the throne. Aegon II's victory was hollow. Haunted by loss and paranoia, he was soon poisoned by his own men, leaving the realm leaderless and broken. The war ended with two dead monarchs, a shattered dynasty, and a kingdom in ruins. The Iron Throne, once the symbol of power, now stood for loss and devastation. The Targaryens lost not only their dragons but also their unity, their legacy, and the hope for their future. The family was left fractured and diminished. The dance left House Targaryen broken, its legacy forever scarred by betrayal, bloodshed, and the ghosts of dragons that once ruled the skies. The age of dragons was over, and the world would never see their like again. The aftermath of the dance left House Targaryen devastated. Most dragons were dead, the survivors were weak or riderless. The last dragon died in the reign of Aegon III, leaving the Targaryens mortal and vulnerable. Without dragons, their power waned, and their rule became unstable. Civil wars like the Blackfyre rebellions echoed the family's old wounds, draining their strength. Madness and paranoia grew more common, culminating in the reign of Aerys, the Mad King. The dynasty's fall was slow, a decay that began with the loss of dragons and the rise of internal strife. The Targaryens, once gods among men, became victims of their own legacy. The story of House Targaryen is a warning about the dangers of unchecked power and family conflict. Their rise was meteoric, but their greatest wounds were self-inflicted. The Doom of Valyria destroyed their home, but the Dance of the Dragons destroyed their soul. The legacy of their strife is written in the ruins of Harrenhal and the skulls of dragons. The Targaryens believed their blood made them special, but their story proves they were all too human. For Daenerys, the last Targaryen, her family's history was both inspiration and warning. She struggled to break the cycle of pride and madness, seeking to rule with justice, not just fire and blood. The Iron Throne, forged by dragonfire, became a symbol of their division. The greatest empires fall not to outside enemies, but when they turn against themselves and forget the ties that bind.